something significant is happening around the Toronto Maple Leafs, and if what I'm hearing ends up becoming reality, it could completely reshape how this team attacks next season. The latest information I'm hearing is that Toronto is seriously considering reuniting William Nylander with Auston Matthews on the top line. Nothing is official yet, but league chatter around this idea has picked up quickly, and that's why so many fans are suddenly paying attention. My take on this is simple. If the Maple Leafs go in this direction, it won't just be another routine line combination. It could change the identity of this team. Here's what makes this story so interesting. For years, one of the biggest debates surrounding the Maple Leafs has been whether their biggest stars should play together or be spread throughout the lineup. Toronto has experimented with both approaches. Sometimes Auston Matthews and William Nylander have looked unstoppable together. Other times, the coaching staff has preferred balancing the scoring by separating the stars. Now, from what I've been told and from the reports circulating around the league, that conversation is happening again, and this time it feels different. People around the league believe Toronto is looking for every possible advantage after another disappointing playoff finish. This organization knows expectations haven't changed. The goal isn't simply making the playoffs anymore. The goal is winning the Stanley Cup. That pressure influences every offseason decision, including something as simple or as important as deciding who plays on the first line. William Nylander has become one of the NHL's most dynamic offensive players. He's not just a scorer, he's one of the league's best puck carriers. His ability to enter the offensive zone with speed forces defenders to back off, opening space for everyone around him. That's exactly why this potential reunion with Matthews has generated so much discussion. Here's how I read this situation. Matthews is still one of hockey's most dangerous goal scorers. Give him more time with the puck and he'll make defenses pay. Nylander, meanwhile, creates offense in ways that don't always show up on the highlight reel. He drives possession, he wins races, he pulls defenders toward him before slipping passes into dangerous areas. Put those two skill sets together, and suddenly opposing coaches have a serious problem. What's fascinating is that this isn't really about whether Nylander and Matthews can play together. We already know they can. The bigger question is whether loading one line with elite talent gives Toronto a better chance to win than spreading that talent across multiple lines. That's the debate happening among fans, analysts, and from what I'm hearing inside hockey circles as well. League sources indicate that offseason planning has opened the door for new combinations. Every coaching staff uses the summer to evaluate what worked, what didn't, and where improvements can be made. Toronto is no different. After falling short again, standing still simply isn't an option. That's why even a potential line change is being treated like a major story. When I look back at previous seasons, there have been stretches where Matthews and Nylander looked almost impossible to defend. Their chemistry wasn't built overnight. Years of playing together created instincts that can't easily be taught. Matthews knows where Nylander likes to attack. Nylander understands how Matthews finds open ice. Those little details matter over an 82-game season. But there has always been another side to the argument. If Matthews and Nylander are together, what happens to the rest of the lineup? Can Toronto still generate enough offense from the second and third lines? That's been one of the biggest reasons coaches have separated them in the past. It wasn't because they couldn't dominate together. It was because the team needed balance. Here's what I'm hearing from around the league. Some people believe Toronto has reached a point where maximizing its elite players is more important than chasing perfect balance. In other words, instead of trying to build three good scoring lines, why not create one line that can completely take over games? That's a philosophy several successful teams have used, especially when chasing a championship. My take is that there's logic behind it. Hockey games often swing on moments rather than long stretches of dominance. If you have a line capable of scoring twice in 5 minutes, that changes everything. Matthews and Nylander have shown they can produce those moments. The question is whether the rest of the roster can support them. Another reason this story has exploded is because of the offseason itself. This is the time when every rumor feels bigger than it might during the regular season. Fans are hungry for clues about what next year's team will look like. Every report gets analyzed, every comment gets dissected, every possible lineup becomes a topic of debate. That's exactly what's happening here. I've seen plenty of reactions already. Some fans absolutely love the idea. They believe Toronto has spent too much time overthinking line combinations and should simply let its best players play together. Others aren't convinced. They worry the team becomes too top-heavy and easier to defend over a 7-game playoff series. Honestly, both sides make reasonable points. If Matthews and Nylander are reunited, opposing coaches will almost certainly match their best defensive pair against them every night. That creates an entirely different challenge. Elite players usually welcome that responsibility, but playoff hockey is different. Space disappears, every mistake gets punished. The Maple Leafs have to build a lineup that can survive those matchups. William Nylander himself continues to be one of the most fascinating players on this roster. Every season, he seems to add another layer to his game. He's become more confident with the puck, more dangerous off the rush, and more willing to attack defenders one-on-one. That's exactly why so many people believe pairing him with Matthews again could unlock another level of offense. Here's something else worth considering. Hockey isn't only about statistics, it's also about confidence. Players feed off chemistry, they feed off success. When two stars start producing together, that confidence spreads throughout the bench. Suddenly, the entire team begins playing faster and with more belief. That's one reason I don't think this discussion is as simple as moving one winger from one line to another. If Toronto makes this change, it's sending a message. It's saying the organization is willing to rethink old strategies in pursuit of something bigger. Now, I also want to keep this grounded in reality. Nothing has been officially confirmed. There hasn't been a final lineup released. Training camp hasn't even started. Coaches will still experiment. Players will still be evaluated. Injuries, preseason performances, and chemistry with other teammates could all influence the final decision. But that doesn't make this story any less important. Sometimes the biggest clues about a team's direction appear months before opening night. That's why reports like this deserve attention. They reveal what organizations are thinking long before anything becomes official. From what I've been told, the belief around the league is that Toronto wants to become more dangerous offensively without dramatically changing the core of its roster. Instead of making another blockbuster move, maybe the biggest adjustment comes from maximizing the talent already in the locker room. That approach actually makes a lot of sense. Building championship teams isn't always about adding another superstar. Sometimes it's about finding the best version of the players you already have. If Matthews and Nylander together represent that best version, then this decision could have consequences that stretch far beyond the regular season. Here's how I see it. This move carries risk, but it also carries enormous upside. If the chemistry returns immediately, Toronto could ice one of the most feared first lines in the NHL. Opponents would have to change their defensive game plans. Coaches would have difficult matchup decisions every single night. That's the kind of pressure elite teams want to create. On the other hand, if the experiment doesn't work, Toronto still has time to adjust before the games truly matter. That's the advantage of testing these ideas early. Nothing is locked in yet, and flexibility remains one of the team's greatest strengths. As more information comes out over the coming weeks, this is one story I'll be watching very closely. The report suggests Toronto is seriously exploring a reunion between William Nylander and Auston Matthews, and if that plan becomes reality, it won't just be another lineup adjustment. It could be the first major clue about how the Maple Leafs intend to chase the Stanley Cup next season, and I have a feeling this conversation is only just beginning.